Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omar Khalid. But today is Friday, the 20th of October 2023, and these are the stories that we'll be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with Pakistan and China, the recent visit of our caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Anwarul Haqqaqar, to Beijing, where he met and interacted with the Chinese President, the Chinese Premier, as well as other Chinese heads of organizations. The highlight was the interaction between the Chinese President and Prime Minister and our caretaker Prime Minister as well, where different important issues of mutual concern were discussed, as well as the way to move forward as far as the BRI and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor are also concerned. We'll be looking back at this important visit, what were the highlights of it, and what has Pakistan achieved through this visit and through this new phase of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor in the negotiations that it has had with the different important leaders in China. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Israel, Palestine and Gaza. Gaza deaths, if we look at the latest updates, have topped 4,200. Over 13,000 have now been injured. Israel, in a latest spate of attack, now attacked a Greek Orthodox church in which several people were killed. It hasn't stopped, after the bombing of the hospital. Now it is going for even other religions, in this case the Greek Orthodox Church. The United Nations chief has called for Israel to open aid lifeline for Gaza. Pakistan has also sent the aid, but the fact remains that a lot of question marks remain on to whether this aid will actually arrive at its destination where the people need it the most, especially in Gaza. This is going to be our second segment. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the United Nations Security Council that has lifted the restrictions on Iran. The US imposes new sanctions on Iran's missile program, but the United Nations Security Council has removed 23 individuals from the sanctions list. The curbs continued for 8 years after the implementation of the JCPOA. We all know that, but under the current American administration, it had been highlighted since the very beginning that they wanted a revival of the JCPOA and the revival of relations as far as Iran is concerned. So of course, good news as far as the JCPOA and Iran is concerned. Then we'll be talking about Canada-India tensions. We all know of the Australian head of intelligence services, who has also directly named the Indian raw agent as being behind the murder of Mr. Nijjar in Canada on Canadian soil. As the fact also remains that the tensions between India and Canada are on an all-time high. The number of diplomats who have been told to leave India is 41 at the same time. This is going to leave another issue as far as the obtention of visas, etc., is concerned. Also from the Indian side, the pressure continues to mount, but now that the Australian head of intelligence has also highlighted that it was Indian raw agents that were behind it, this puts a lot of pressure on India on how to move forward. Then we are going to talk about North Atlantic rights whales, which have become more endangered because of not being taken care of and colliding a lot with the ships. You can see the carcasses on the parallel window. Violations of speed limits is what has harmed these whales. Increased enforcement is needed, and that is what seems to be going to be implemented in the next coming days. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns Pakistan, China, its relations, the BRI, the CPEC, the Belt and Road Forum, and of course the achievements that Pakistan has had because of the CPEC in the first phase, and now the second phase is commencing, that Mr. Haqqaqar calls the growth phase. A lot is expected to be implemented during the coming years. Our Prime Minister had a lot of important interactions with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, as well as Mr. Li Qiang, who is the Chinese Premier, in which agreements had also been signed, MOUs are signed. Important bilateral agreements were catered to, and a lot of positivity was emanated due to the visit of Mr. Haqqaqar to China. To talk about this, we've been joined online by Chen Tong. She's a reporter for CGTN. Chen, thank you very much to have joined us. In the studios, we've got Faheem Sardar, who's a senior policy specialist with the SPPC. Thank you very much, Faheem, to have joined us. Let's begin with Chen. Chen, thank you to have joined us all the way from Shanghai. I'd like to understand how important was the trip of our caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Anwarul Haqqaqar, to Beijing, and now that he's in Xinjiang, what were the important elements of his trip there?
Well, yes, Prime Kaka spent a very busy day in Xinjiang. According to what we know, Kaka visited the Xinjiang University today and addressed the faculty and the students there. He addressed the importance of deepening the links between Xinjiang and the neighboring areas of Pakistan in diverse fields of cooperation, ranging from trade and investment to culture and people-to-people ties. And Kaka shared Pakistan's interests in working with Xinjiang in areas such as infrastructure development, economic synergy, trade and investment, and agriculture. He hopes the youth in Xinjiang and Pakistan to act as a bridge of friendship and brotherhood in the years to come. And also, according to what we know today, Kaka also met some officials in Xinjiang, and the two sides have agreed to work together to harness the full potential of cooperation between Xinjiang and the neighboring areas of Pakistan. So apparently, the Prime Minister has had a very busy trip in Xinjiang.
All right. I'd also like to have your point of view, Chen, about why our caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Anwarul Haque Kakar, chose Xinjiang this time as a stop during his visit to China.
Well, yes, I think the reason why Kaka spent a day in Xinjiang is first, we know Xinjiang and Pakistan are actually neighbors. And second, Xinjiang has been a window for China and Pakistan to cooperate. Well, this year also marks the 10-year anniversary of the construction of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, known as the SPPC. And the starting point of the corridor is in Kashgar in Xinjiang and ends in Quetta Port in Pakistan. And also the Kandrab border connecting Pakistan and China is also located in Xinjiang. As of the end of August this year, the trade between Pakistan and China via the board came in at more than 16,000 tons, a year-on-year increase of 116%. So without a doubt, Xinjiang has been playing a very crucial part during the trade between the two countries.
All right, Chen, tell us a little bit about the meeting of our caretaker Prime Minister with the Chinese high-ups, with the Chinese leaders yesterday. What were the important points that were discussed? What were the mutual discussions that were held?
Well, yes, during a meeting in Beijing yesterday, Chinese President Xi Jinping said China will work with Pakistan, which he said is an ironclad friend, to make new contributions to safeguarding peace and stability and promoting prosperity in the region and the world. And Xi said both sides should strengthen cooperation in fields including industrial parks, agriculture and mining, new energy, promote the early implementation of major connectivity projects and achieve practical results. And also Xi added that he welcomes more Pakistani high-quality agricultural products to be exported to China. And, just in the end of last month, over 2,000 kilograms of Afghan pine nuts were actually shipped to China via Urumqi. And last year, the volume of sesame that Pakistan exported to China jumped by 50% year-on-year. And also a historic of 1 million tons of rice were also exported to China during the same period. And in his response, Kaka said Pakistan firmly adheres to the One China principle and stands firmly with China on issues concerning its core interests. He said Pakistan is willing to work closely with China to promote the high-quality development of the CPEC. Well, I'm presently based in Shanghai, and the 6th China International Import Expo will be held here next month. And during the past year, I've already seen a lot of products from Pakistan to come to China via the Import Expo. And according to what I know, there will also be some Pakistani exhibitors to participate this year. So I'll be covering the event next month. So can't wait to see more new fresh products from Pakistan next month.
And I can't wait to talk to you again next month, Chen, where you'll be highlighting different aspects of this very important move that is happening in Shanghai. Thank you very much, Chen Tong, to have joined us all the way from Shanghai. CGTN reporter Chen Tong joining us from Shanghai, discussing the elements of Pak-China friendship, and of course in the context of the visit of Mr. Anwarul Haque Kakar, Pakistani caretaker Prime Minister, to Beijing and then to Xinjiang. Thank you very much to have joined us. Let's come to the studios now and talk to Faheem Sardar. Faheem, you've been waiting patiently. You heard a little bit about what Chen had to say from a Chinese perspective, and let's come to the Pakistani perspective of it all.
Sure.
When you look at Pakistan-China friendship, we call them iron brothers. It's a very strong relationship in the fact that China has always stood by us in the good and the bad times. This time when Mr. Kakar went to Beijing, there was a lot of positive apprehension as to what will happen during his meetings with the leaders, and a lot of positivity emanated when he did meet the premier and the Chinese president. How important is Pakistan's commitment now that these meetings have been held, now that there is a commitment to move forward in the second phase of CPEC?
Thank you. They remain just as committed and possibly more than they did before, because Pakistan and China are working together. We have got strategic interests. We not only are friends, not only have we helped each other. It's not just China that's helped Pakistan. Pakistan has helped China as well. The timings were different. But when we talk about the Prime Minister's visit to China, we have to sort of take a few steps back and see what's happening in the region. The region is going through a transition of sorts. China is facing a bit of a transition. We're facing a bit of a transition. Now, we have to also re-engage on strategic elements, not just economics. And I mean, of course, economics is being highlighted because that's used as a master key to other aspects, as a solution to many of the issues that this region faces. However, these meetings are very important. Our cooperation it cannot be more important right now than it was, at any other time, because so much is happening in this region. We have too many theaters around us, too many volatile situations around us, and perhaps Pakistan and China need to come even more closely together to make sure that there is peace in the region. When it comes to economics, we can't even begin to describe how important this is, because CPEC was the flagship. CPEC was the flagship of the BRI. The CPEC is active, but it needs to be improved. There are some issues that need to be resolved. We have to be practical as well. They will be resolved when the two governments sit down and the two sides of the businesses sit down and iron out whatever details there are. The bottom line is both are agreeing on the same thing. The bottom line is both are agreeing to move in the same direction. And it is extremely important for both countries and the region to have CPEC and to have CPEC branch out into Afghanistan, beyond Afghanistan. Let us not forget, even India was invited to CPEC, but India refused. So China has sort of bypassed India, and it's not the first time that India has always been throwing monkey wrenches in the system. So it's nothing new. But at the end of the day, it is extremely important for us to make sure that our cooperation increases and keeps on increasing, because we have certain challenges coming our way and we need to be prepared.
And that is true. Agha Iqrar, Haroon also joined us online. Agha Iqrar, thank you very much to have joined us. Agha Iqrar, now that our Prime Minister, our caretaker Prime Minister is in Xinjiang, how important do you feel his visit to this area in China is as well? And what can Pakistan benefit from its relations with Xinjiang?
Look, thank you so much for inviting me. First of all, let me add, I had been traveling through this whole region from here to the Central Asia after crossing the autonomous part of China and then Kazakhstan. So I can understand the importance of this region for Pakistan, and this is the actual reason which we will definitely link Pakistan to the Central Asia, and it is already linking, as mentioned by our journalist from China. So this is very important region, and historically, if you have a look of this particular region, historically it's very important. It is linked with Pakistan. Historically, it is linked with Pakistan spiritually, and it is also linked with Pakistan economically. So Pakistan had, today's Pakistan had basically a branch of Silk Road, if you remember. I mean, we were not in the main Silk Road, but we had a branch, and this branch was from this area. And if you still go to Khaplu or Pushe Valley and these deep Gilgit-Baltistan, their culture is the same culture of Shenkiong. So we are very strongly close with that particular area, and this area is going to be very important area for the transportation of, you can say, not only the cargo traffic, but rather the industrialization, because China would definitely move in the second phase, which we already entered into, of CPEC, to transferring its medium-size industry to Pakistan, and that would be on this whole region. And I was just on KKH a week ago, and still, I mean, if you see the new KKH, which has been under construction, almost it is done 80%, connecting to the Xinjiang. This KKH is not this old KKH we had been traveling through. It is totally different kind of connectivity, and it's huge road with already a huge parking areas where you can compound 100 or 110 containers at the same time. So this area is very important for Pakistan, and the visit of the Prime Minister to Pakistan is, I think, he wanted to be there to have a look of that, to have a feel of that, how much this area is important for Pakistan. Because historically everybody knows it, but today is, the things are totally changed, and it's a new era we are living in. But this area is very much strongly connected with historical perspective also.
All right, Agha Iqrar, during his meetings and also during his address at the BRI forum, the Belt and Road Forum, the Prime Minister did highlight the importance of infrastructure development, particularly railway and road infrastructure. He also highlighted that during his meetings with the Chinese leaders. How does that relate to Pakistan's economic situation and the potential as far as our tourist industry is concerned? Because, of course, when you talk of Xinjiang and the Pakistan, they are linked through the Khunjerab border. So do you feel this could increase tourism through the border into Pakistan as well, and people could see the majestic Pakistani north as well?
I mean, if you go through the history and if you talk about, you can say early 90s, when China was opening up, China was shifting from communist China to a kind of liberal communist China. There was a huge influx of Chinese tours from Gujarat to Pakistan, and I had been reporting and witnessing all that. Then after this 9/11, this turbulence, this road was not used by Chinese for tourism, you can say, purposes, but definitely it will enhance inflow and outflow of tourists at both. For both countries, inflow also and outflow also. But in any kind of inflow or outflow, when there is a tourism activity, of course, it generates local businesses and local trade, and that definitely benefit the small areas. You can never imagine to get involved in any industrialization. But even very smallest town, you can connect with, you can say, the economic benefit and activities if there is the tourism going on over there. You are absolutely right. And secondly, you were talking about the railway. China can do everything. If we ever, China and we, lay down a railway track, that would be, Omar, a totally new era in the human history, not only Pakistan, because it was the shortest possible railway line of China to connect Indo-Pacific. The shortest possible. Because right now, China is using the old railway track of this Tajikistan, then entering into Uzbekistan, from Uzbekistan entering into Afghanistan. So this is already a very long way, and from Afghanistan, 800 kilometer track we need to connect with Turkham. But this would be shortest possible track and the more secure track for Chinese cargo and for Chinese to touch Indo-Pacific.
True, that is true, and thank you so very much, Agha Iqrar, Haroon, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this visit of our caretaker Prime Minister to China, to Beijing, and now to Xinjiang. Faheem, Sardar, you are in the studios. You've been hearing Agha Iqrar as well as the Chinese correspondent from Shanghai as well. In your point of view, how can Pakistan benefit from Xinjiang's experience in the agricultural sector? There is a lot of talk of modernization of our agriculture industry. Do you feel Pakistan can maybe learn a thing or two from the Xinjiang experience?
Of course we can, because right now what we need to do is we need to increase our production as soon as possible, and that usually happens with better seed, better fertilizer, better preservatives, and more targeted agriculture. China has already done all of these things, and in the Xinjiang area, we have seen a lot of success stories. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Might as well just understand what they've done. Yeah, we have to sort of adjust for temperature and many other things. But right now, I am just repeating myself that Pakistan and China need to get even closer, because we have common interests that need to be galvanized if necessary, and they need to be pushed wherever they have to be pushed. When it comes to agriculture, without doubt, we can rely on their experience, because that would give us a quantum leap, so to speak.
All right, Faheem, during his meetings, he also met with CEOs of various Chinese enterprises and leading Chinese companies as well, in which business and economic relations with Pakistan were discussed. Import and export to and from Pakistan was discussed. Do you feel the outcome is going to be positive? Do you feel we will see more Chinese investment as far as through different companies is concerned? And of course, an export of Pakistani goods as per the requirement of China? Because I was talking to one of the experts, and he was saying that as far as Pakistani exports to China are concerned, that is just 0.5 to 1% of the total export potential, import potential that China has in just one of the factors where Pakistan is exporting.
China, it's like China has got a huge import appetite, and Pakistan doesn't need to furnish all of it like some people may want to, which is, I hope that happens one day. But right now, even if we can increase our exports by let's say 200-300% to China, that is sufficient for us right now, because you see, growth has to be managed as well. Economic growth based on, for example, some steroid growth always has a bad result. So Pakistan also needs time to adjust, retool, calibrate its economy to what China needs. For example,
but does Pakistan have the time to recalibrate it under the current circumstances?
Time is short, but no, we can.
Okay.
We can. Time is short, no doubt, but we can. Why am I saying that? Because we've done it in the past as well. If we remember, exports did rise, and on the top of the agenda, since I was dealing with many of those things, it was always like, we have to provide what China is asking for. China has been asking for fruit. China has been asking for meat. China has been asking for fish, for pulses, for other things. We just need to increase our production, and we need to get the certifications, but above all, we need to make sure that we give them what they want, because that's the easiest way to do it. Khunjarab is right near, how close do we want our destination? It's right there. So we just have to move it up.
Exactly, and the road is pretty good as well. The KKH is pretty impressive, to say the least. Is agriculture the only domain? I mean, there are MOUs that have been signed recently in this visit of Mr. Kakar to China as well, on different fields, including railways as well. The ML1 was something that had been talked about a lot in the past years, and now this seems to become a reality in the coming months. How important will that be for Pakistan's economy?
Omar, one thing we need to sort of once again take 2 steps back and see is that our cooperation with China is full spectrum, as we would like to call it. But if you notice, our cooperation with China has become industrial in nature, which is not bad, because if you notice how closely we are with Chinese industry, well, when we talk about our nuclear power plants, when we talk about our IPPs, when we talk about our railways, when we talk about our railway carriages, there's just a few of the many examples. So there is a natural cooperation, or perhaps I should say a convergence of sorts, that we are experiencing with China on industry. Agriculture is a natural thing for us. We just need to increase our standards, improve our certifications to sort of get, more on track to ship it to China. I'm not too worried about that, to be very honest. I'm more interested in the industrial thing, because industry, let's not forget, industry really...
It is also part of the second phase of the CPEC, industrial cooperation.
And industry always gives you that extra boost that you need. That micro catapult that you need to sort of increase your growth and your economic structure. Pakistan has faced deindustrialization for a very long time, so this is perhaps a moment where we can sort of reverse things.
All right, well, speaking of reversing things, how important is it for Pakistan to also expedite movement as far as its different sectors are concerned under the second phase of the CPEC?
We need to be very focused. It's very important. We need to be focused so we don't waste time. So we don't so we don't sort of chase ghosts. You know, because in economics, time is money. If we can prioritize, and the Planning Commission has prioritized what we need to focus on. We're good at planning. In our execution phase, we need to be even better, because we've learned from the phase one. In phase two, we need to be more focused as to what we need to do very quickly. Why am I saying this? Because time is short. We have to push not only for ourselves but for the region as well. We cannot allow economic instability to have a radiating effect. We need to have economic stability radiating its effect. And if Pakistan quickly stabilizes itself, it's going to have a very good effect on the region.
All right.
And that accelerates everything.
Faheem, under the current circumstances, how important do you feel the role of the SIFC is going to be, and how important is it also for Pakistan's economic industry to be investor friendly?
I'll take the second one first, because the economy, the investment structure, everything has to be super friendly, not friendly, super friendly. And a simple test of it is, if somebody wants to invest $100 in Pakistan, or 100 riyals, or 100 euros, or 100 pounds, they should not have to go to too many windows.
It should be a one-window operation.
It should be a one-window operation, and the SIFC is there to sort of bring things together. We have to remember, the SIFC is a facilitator in coordination. It is not going to replace any system.
Of course.
But it has to be done quickly, and it has to be super friendly.
All right. What are the expectations from China as far as Pakistan are concerned?
I think to hold its ground, to fix what needs to be fixed, and to get back on the growth bandwagon.
And what should be Pakistan's basic targets as far as stabilizing its economic sector in the, say, if I had to say, next 6 months?
The first thing Pakistan needs to do is immediately, with no mercy at all, Pakistan has to plug its hemorrhages. I have spoken to you about this in previous positions.
But I'd like to highlight them again, if that's possible for our audience.
Sure. Right now, we cannot allow any pilferage or hemorrhage in the economic system. For example, if foreign currency, especially dollars, are being smuggled out of the country, cannot be allowed. If there is any kind of, for example, hoarding of currency, that cannot be allowed. We have to remember, no economy allows this. So why would we have such a
but we're doing the needful, aren't we? And that is why the dollar is stabilizing.
Exactly. So we're on the right track, and we're going in the right direction. The government is working hard, and we have to make sure that we bring down our energy costs. The largest import bill is for POL, crude oil and petroleum oil and lubricants. We need to bring this down immediately. 2-3 other small things that we need to do, which are hemorrhaging us unnecessarily, are food items.
All right.
We need 3 months to have one crop, need to plant them quickly so that we can at least have the first crop, and we can save the $700 million that we're spending on only pulses.
That is true, and that and so much more, but I'm sure that Pakistan's government and Pakistan's different organizations are working together in tandem to do the needful. I think the first thing should be being investor friendly, and the second thing should be putting things in order so that things move in the right direction. Thank you very much, Faheem Sardar, to have joined us, Senior Policy Specialist, SPPC, to have joined us and to have talked to us about Pak-China relations, about what needs to be done now that Mr. Anwarullah Kakar has laid down the baseline as far as the next phase of the CPEC is concerned during his meetings with Xi Jinping and Li Qiang. Thank you. Now let's come to our second segment that concerns Palestine, Israel, the bombing of Gaza and the bombing of the Greek Orthodox Church, as well as so many other developments that are happening. Still, aid is not going to the Palestinians in Gaza, despite the fact that many countries are sending aid, including Pakistan. More in the following report.
Israel has continued attacking sacred places in the Gaza Strip and destroyed the historical Al-Omari Mosque and compound of the Greek Orthodox Saint Porphyrius Church in the latest air raids, killing several displaced people who had sheltered at the church compound. The latest bombardment came amid signs for the first humanitarian aid deliveries into the besieged Palestinian enclave. A special aircraft carrying 81 tons of humanitarian and medical aid from Pakistan for the people of Palestine in Gaza arrived at the Al Arish International Airport. Pakistani ambassador Sajid Bilal handed over the aid to Egyptian Red Crescent Society for its onwards delivery to Palestinian Red Crescent Society in Gaza. Meanwhile, in his pro-Israel and Ukraine statement, President Joe Biden said that Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to annihilate a neighboring democracy. Explaining the U.S. intervention in both conflicts, Biden said that American leadership is what holds the world together. The governments of the United States, United Kingdom and Germany have advised their citizens to leave Lebanon amid growing concerns that the Israeli assault on the besieged Gaza Strip could trigger a wider conflict in the region. Since Israel's hard-right government came to power last year, the language used towards Palestinians has changed to the genocidal. What is unfolding in Gaza is genocide that the international community should take responsibility for.
We discuss on this very important segment. We've been joined by Dr. Elham Kadkhodaei. She's a political analyst and she joins us from Tehran. Thank you very much, ma'am, to have joined us. Our second guest who will also be joining us on live will be Brigadier Rashid Janjua. He's a senior analyst as well. Let's begin with Dr. Elham. Dr. Elham, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Elham, how do you see the current situation as far as Palestine is concerned, and what is the possible outcome of all the efforts that are being done for a ceasefire to happen? Do you foresee a ceasefire or not?
Hello. Well, what's happening in Palestine right now, in Gaza, it's practically a catastrophe. I mean, what we're seeing right now is a form of ethnic cleansing, a form of genocide. We see that, places are being bombed, civilians are being killed indiscriminately. And this is just going on and on without any country doing anything which will have a kind of a practical effect on solving the situation. So as far as we see that countries like the United States, they're just moving about their weapons near to this region and, stating their unilateral support for Israel without having the fairness to acknowledge what's happening, the catastrophe that's happening for the Palestinian people and has been happening on a kind of an ongoing format for them for the past several decades. There is going to be no solution. So I think instead of waiting for some form of miracle.
Well, we were in conversation with Dr. Elham, and of course she was talking to us about the current situation as far as Palestine is concerned, and how important aid is to reach Palestine. But of course she was not optimistic as far as the future, at least for the Palestinians, is concerned. But she was very critical as far as what is happening in Palestine is concerned. Dr. Elham, yes, you were telling us.
Yes. I was saying that some form of change has to come from Muslim countries. I believe that the diplomacy that's been going on, this should be continued, and I think these countries should come together and come with a solution. Egypt has a border with Gaza. Saudi Arabia, Emirates, other countries, they all have their own methods for being able to influence what's happening. So if they are united, I believe, and if everyone believes that the solution for this problem is not going to come from America, from other Western countries, maybe in that way we're going to have a kind of change in what's happening right now.
Also, Dr. Elham, there has been a lot of rapprochement between Iran and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and of course there was also a conversation on this very topic between both the leaders of Iran and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well. Do you feel these two countries will have an important role in the future as well, as far as Palestine is concerned?
Yes, I think because what's happening between Iran and Saudi Arabia is unprecedented. Phone calls between Iranian presidents and the Saudi prince, and also the trips that the Iranian foreign minister has been having back and forth to Saudi Arabia, to other countries in the region. This is something that's happening. Many of these things are happening for the first time. And I think both countries actually do have the power and the influence in the region and the incentives, I believe, to somehow somehow change the current asymmetry that we have between Palestinians and Israel, in which, I mean, we see that Israel is, its right to defend itself. That's what everyone is, constantly talking about. This is being acknowledged, but no one acknowledges the fact that the Palestinians also have the right to defend themselves. And I think if this kind of diplomacy between Iran and Saudi Arabia is, if this continues, I believe that practical outcomes will be coming, joined, of course, by other countries that have previously maybe normalized their relations with the Israeli regime. If they, track back and, reconsider that process based on the fact that any peace program or any peace accord that does not consider the rights of the Palestinian people it's going to be futile. It's not going to have any effective outcome. If this is realized, I think change will come from the Middle East itself, and that's very important. I believe that instead of foreign countries coming and going and trying to, propose something or maybe impose their decisions on the people in this region, if this change and if this initiative comes from within this region, that's going to have a more proper and more positive outcome.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Elham Kadkhodaei, to have joined us all the way from Iran to talk to us about the latest Palestinian situation and what needs to be done by the Muslim world. We have to go to a short break. We'll be right back after. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom, and let's begin our third story on the United Nations lifting the sanctions on Iran. More in the following report.
The United Nations Security Council has lifted a number of restrictions imposed on Iran's missile program as part of the country's 2015 nuclear deal with the world powers. Other international sanctions of the Security Council against the Islamic Republic of Iran had already been terminated on the day of implementation of the JCPOA in October 2020. Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and its Ministry of Defense have confirmed the lifting of the restrictions. The Iranian Defense Ministry said that Tehran regards this period in time as an opportunity to be used to prove its might and righteousness, and also to strengthen its defense capabilities. UN Under-Secretary General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs Rosemary A. DiCarlo also confirmed the termination of the mentioned regulations and the withdrawal of Iranian individuals and the institutions from the list of the Security Council. It should be noted that despite the finalization of the termination of these restrictions, the Western countries try to doubt the finalization of the said process. The government of the Islamic Republic of Iran has announced that it considers the claim of the United States and European countries to continue these restrictions on the national capacity, despite the termination of international restrictions, as a violation of the Article 25 of the United Nations Charter. International observers consider the nature of the relations and military cooperation of Iranian government to continue these restrictions on the national capacity of Western countries as a purely symbolic action. For now, Iran is maintaining contact with the International Atomic Energy Agency on a number of outstanding cases related to its nuclear program.
Iranian journalist Afzal Reza joins us online. Afzal, thank you very much to have joined us. How do you see this recent announcement by the United Nations Security Council regarding the restrictions or the lifting of those on Iran's missile program?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, my brother, for having me in your show. Yes, the sanctions of the Security Council have ended. Although these sanctions were imposed due to the to be honest, that the hostility of the West towards Iran and the baseless accusation of the West against the peaceful program of the Islamic Republic of Iran. But one thing I have to tell you here is that despite the sanctions and false stories of the West, Iran continued to make progress in the field of defense, and today we are witnessing Iran's achievement in all military and defense fields, especially in the aviation industry and the drones.
All right, Afzal, what is going to be the response now that some of the restrictions have been lifted as far as the West is concerned? And what could you highlight some of the components of these restrictions that have now been removed?
According to Secretary of the United Nations Security Council, they have sending a note to every member of the states inside the United Nations, and they have announced that officially ends of such sanctions, like regarding to including the missile test, restriction on the export and import of the missile items to Iran, as well as the sanctions related to the confiscation of property and providing financial service to the Iranian individual. But regarding the action by the West, although the sanctions of the Security Council have ended, but the unilateral sanctions of some countries are still in place on Iran. I mean, the same countries that so-called defend the human rights, meanwhile they are crying for Ukraine, but supporting the crime of the Israel in the occupied Palestine. These sanctions are still on the card against Iran.
All right. And what kind of future do you see, Afzal, as far as the JCPOA is concerned now? Are you optimistic? Do you feel some kind of a resolution to that will also come in the coming months?
Khalid, in 2019, Iran, starting reducing the implementation of its commitments when the Western party did not fulfill their promises. And you know better that in May 2018, the former so-called U.S. president withdraw from the JCPOA in a completely wrong and unilateral action. And now it depends on U.S. and Europe. If they want an agreement again on the JCPOA, they must first cancel the unilateral sanction and the illegal sanction against Iran, because the Iranian high-ranking officials have always said that clearly that if unilateral sanctions are lifted, Iran will return to its commitments as well.
All right. Afzal, also, now that this news has come from the United Nations Security Council, how does Iran view it on a personal and on an administrative level? What are your expectations in the coming days?
This is just about some, I think this is something like, formalities, because Iran believes that the strong sanctions still in place against Iran, that such sanctions do not completely help to gain some goals for Iran, because however America and its allies continue to blame Iran defense program, and they are trying to impose a new sanction. According to the report, they are again trying to impose new sanction against Iran. So I don't think this kind of step is working.
All right. And what has been the reaction from the Iranian side? Will we get an official reaction from the Iranian side, or are you waiting for more official reactions to this suspension of the restrictions by the United Nations Security Council?
We have seen the welcoming a statement like China. That China has welcomed the cancel of the United Nations Security Council sanctions, but the Iranians are still waiting for. I just saw some reports regarding confirmation by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. They have confirming the cancellation of the sanctions, not anymore like.
All right. Under the current circumstances, the geostrategic environment that you have yourself alluded to regarding Palestine, and how important do you feel the role of Iran becomes as well amongst the Committee of Muslim Nations?
After the Executive Committee of the Foreign Minister of the OIC, Iran determined its commitment to strong support for the Palestinian cause, and called upon every members of the OIC and the justice supporting nation in the world that they should come out against such brutality of Israel against Palestine.
All right. Thank you very much, Afzal Reza, to have joined us. That was Afzal Reza, Iranian journalist, talking to us about the lifting of the restrictions by the United Nations Security Council on Iran, and of course what is going to happen now. The Iranian side, as well mentioned by the Iranian journalist, said that it was expecting this because it is conforming to what the JCPOA had put in line, as well as the United Nations. So of course things are moving around in the right direction. Let's see what happens as far as the JCPOA is also concerned. Let's come to our last two stories quickly. The first concerns the tensions between Canada and India. I'd like to refer first of all by the statement of the Australian Canadian Intelligence Services Chief Mike Burgess, who has confirmed that in fact Indian raw agents have been involved in the murder of Mr. Nijjar, and this comes as a second confirmation after the confirmation that was given by the Canadian Premier Justin Trudeau, as well as by the Canadian Foreign Minister. As a result of that, we are seeing a lot of expulsions of Canadian journalists, Canadian diplomats rather, from Indian soil. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly has confirmed that 41 Canadian diplomats have left India after New Delhi threatened to revoke their diplomatic immunity. This was also reported on a CBC News earlier, that a large number of them had departed the country overnight. She has also said that Canada will have to pause the in-person diplomatic services at all the offices except for the one in New Delhi. This will also, of course, delay the obtention of visa for all Indian nationals or the students that have been wanting to come to Canada. Also, we are looking forward to what happens now that the confirmation of the murder of Nijjar has and the involvement of the Indian raw agents has been confirmed by the Canadians, by the Australians. Will the others also comply? Will the other countries that are part of the Five Eyes also put in a statement, and will that exert more pressure on India? Time will tell. Last story concerns speeding boats that are putting critically endangered whales closer to extinction. North Atlantic right whales are being killed in collisions with vessels that are flouting go-slow zones in US waters. This is a report that has warned that they need to conform to the speed limit so that other creatures are not endangered, just like the whales are being. And of course, this is part of the environmental protection that the West and other countries is also adhering to. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah on Monday with news stories and segments that pertain to US and Pakistan. It's the weekend, so have a great one. Stay safe, and we'll see you inshallah again on Monday with news stories and segments that pertain to you and Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.